Tonight on Pia.
You know, to walk on a stage and hear people applaud you before you even sing.
I'm driven. I think it's because of doing it so many years. But now, I'm easily driven, or the drive is provided for me by the audiences.
You look in any city in Canada and there's at least one company that does nothing but Canadian play.
At 88, to still be able to sing.
This is going to be fun. When I was a little girl, I was fascinated by old people. I remember getting very excited whenever I had the opportunity to meet one because, well, I felt they knew something special, something you could only know if you'd lived a very long time. But over time, my intuitive admiration got a bit stunted by our youth-obsessed society as I went about living the life of family, career, and making a living. No time for old people then, but now the boomers are going gray. And in a few years, there's going to be a lot more elders amongst us than ever before. This is going to be a wonderful phenomenon, and we should start appreciating it now. I am and always have been particularly impressed by elder artists. Their magic, wisdom, and accomplishments seem so effortless. Tonight we meet three of Vancouver's most prominent performers, all of whom are over 80, and none of whom have lost the will or the skill to enlighten and entertain.
The trick with aging is only, I think, to acknowledge your limitations.
I've been fortunate. I'm 88 years old, and to have come to this stage, having the ability to still do something that is a passion with me.
To do as much creatively as you possibly can with the time you have.
Entering from stage right on the Orpheum Theatre with a full house of 2,700 people on my 90th birthday celebration. Big night for me. Did I have fear? No, I didn't. I had lots of tension. Well, I must remember to do this, I must do this, the order will be this, and da, 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 da. But once on stage, I'm totally a ham. When the applause starts, I'm just loving it.
As a performer, you've presented yourself all of your career, and presentation has to do with ability and energy.
I'm driven. I think it's because of doing it so many years. But now, I'm easily driven, or the drive is provided for me by the audiences.
At 88, to still be able to sing is a blessing beyond even my wildest imagination or dreams.
I've entered a new aura, I really have, of appreciation from the audiences. They seem to tell me that, look at that guy, he's still doing it at 92 and he's doing it okay. That I appreciate that. I appreciate their confidence. I appreciate their response to what I do.
It's a funny thing about time. You know, when you forget your line, it's as if you die and time is endless.
Hopefully, one can be tolerant of the errors and the slip-ups and the stumbles that you might have by recognizing that you're old. That's hard to do. That's very hard to do.
If you can get the first line right, which means getting the first breath right, but if you can get the first line right, the rest of it will happen, right? And it's tough to do that. I mean, you spend whole runs trying to just breathe it right. It's like, you know, in watercolor, they say when it is on the breath, just on the breath and no more, it's perfect. Don't touch it anymore.
You know, to walk on a stage and hear people applaud you before you even sing. And then that puts a lot of, you've got to hopefully do your best so you can earn what they've applauded you for, even before you've sung.
It takes a lot of practice and a lot of, before you even know what that means, before you've felt it so many times that you go, okay. Tonight, the time goes fast because...
The communication that you can feel with an audience is very, as you well know, it's a very special thing.
When they say, when the God is with you, and it just goes, it's over before you've started. It's the most amazing thing. I think actors or performers are the only people that can understand time at all, that time is not ticking off a day or a minute or an hour. And we've measured it wrong.
When I think that I'm responsible for their response, what I do is what they want to hear and respond to. And that gives me a clear channel to keep doing it.
I want to be sure that I don't overstep. I want to be sure that I don't fall into the trap that a lot of performers, and particularly a lot of singers, go beyond their time. I don't think it's fair for an audience to listen to somebody on the basis of their legend.
You know, when we're on the stage, for example, at the concert stage of the P&E, there's that huge crowd out there, twice a day for 21 days. And what we do is what they want to hear. That's why they're there. That's very rewarding.
I want to do it as long as I feel I can present myself. I want to be presented in a way that I feel good. I feel I'm not imposing.
Well, you know, in '92, you have to contemplate it. You have to think about what it's going to be like. And I'm not ready to turn that corner yet.
I think the difference between our wonderful guests and other less fulfilled senior citizens is the gift of creativity. But you'll also notice they all have love in their life. The importance of love applies to everyone, but especially in later years, loving and being loved seems to keep the life force flowing in our veins and lighting up our eyes.
Not only do we need love, we need to participate in loving. You have to feel loved. I mean, you have to feel like you want to love to receive love, it seems to me. And you don't lose that at 88 years old.
I've been, yes, very fortunate to have been friends, or more than that, with several women in my life. But now I have Muriel, and of course, Muriel keeps me tap dancing, and there's no rest for the wicked at this point. She keeps me going, and I bless her for that.
I was in the studio finishing a CD, and he had gone into the studio to record something that I had not heard before. I sat down and listened to it, and I thought, oh, that's a nice song. I wonder when he wrote that. And it went on, and I realized that possibly it could possibly be about me. He walked out of the studio with this big, broad smile and put his hand on my shoulder. I was seated, he was standing behind me. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I wrote that for you, Dad.
When you first discover your gift for music, painting, acting, or writing, you don't question the direction your life is meant to take. You are passionate. The young artist doesn't stop to think, will I make money at this? And usually they don't. No pension either when they're old. Joy Coghill, one of Canada's most renowned actors and teachers, made it her business to care about the fates of older performers. Through an Herculean fundraising effort involving 3 levels of government and the private sector, and led by Joy's will and determination, 4 years ago, the Performing Arts Lodge opened in Vancouver's Cole Harbour. With 99 subsidized apartments for older people in the performing arts, PAL is always full, always has a wait list, and is always humming with activity.
The most important play was always American or British. The most important painting was always European. The most important composition was always from somewhere else. The most important things in our lives, the standards we wanted to live up to, were always made somewhere else. Now, you look in any city in Canada and there's at least one company that does nothing but Canadian plays. Now, that's a very short period of time, but those people are the pioneers that did that 50, 40 years ago. Those people are the people who are seniors now, and we owe them. We owe them not just one PAL, but maybe 2 or 3, because there are lineups to get in PAL at subsidized housing. And people who gave their lives to the performing arts in Vancouver during this period of time never made a lot of money, never got a pension plan or anything like that. And we owe them. And they are dying to keep creating because they were part of a time when we suddenly became known through the rest of the world. Because of the life you have led, you have something to say. So if you can't say it in music, or if you can't memorize your lines anymore, or whatever, you have to find a way to get around that, or you have to put your creativity into some other form of using it, because you certainly have an awful lot to express. And people have found that in aging, given the opportunity, and we live in a society that doesn't give us that opportunity, that things like Alzheimer's can be improved and lightened if the person is taken to the art gallery and is exposed to painting and then is allowed to try it themselves. That all these areas of creativity are very healing. These are 2 people who have created a musical in the last few months together. And one of them, Lorraine, is someone who worked with Dal in her younger years and is a junior compared to Dal. And the other one comes from Montreal, and they're both singers of quality, and they have a following. And these people are daring to create something new together. And it's the beginning of maybe a very successful musical. These are people who made their living in nightclubs, in cruise ships, and now they want to do something new.
We assume progress is created by youth, energetically dashing into the future, full of desires and ideas. But not all progressions are created equal. For real insight into the future, look to our elders for their experience and wisdom.
Some people here that are artists, that are performing artists, sit in the beauty of it on the lawn and think how wonderful their career is going to be when someone discovers them. That if only they could be discovered, or if only they could be cast by the leading companies here, that they would just soar and be marvelous. And then they suddenly wake up around 50 and realize it hasn't happened. And then there's the other kind, and I'm one of them, that does too much. I mean, they don't sit in the lawn. They see all the things that has to be done, and I going through my papers, I just kept, and trying to do my website, I just kept saying, this woman has done too much. This makes me tired to read all this.
Well, when I get up in the morning, my office is in my home, and there are always calls waiting. There's always email, so you have to jump right on top of this every morning. So I don't rest my head on my troubled elbow and say, my goodness, I'm 92.
I did a stupid thing. I went and joined Facebook in order to understand. My son was doing a bicycle run between Toronto and Montreal for AIDS. And he said, just join Facebook, Mother, and you can follow my pictures and my comments every day. So stupid me, I joined Facebook, whereupon all these people wanted to be my friend, and it won't stop, you know, and it's such a waste of, I don't know, it's not a waste of affection, but it's a waste of time. It's time on a machine.
There's so much more that we can learn. Then we don't have to think about progress in the way it's often used.
It's very hard to adjust fast enough. You see, I remember when a book came out that talked about the obsolete word was brought up for the first time, and we were told in this book that pens could be thrown away. Like the new pens, you didn't keep the way you have one. My mother had one fountain pen all her life, and she wrote all her letters with it to the family and to me. No, this was the throwaway. It was such a shock. And now?
The broadening of a population, of groups of people, of cultures, recognition of other cultures and what they've done, that is the measurement, it seems to me, because what's the frame of reference for progress? What is really the frame of reference for progress?
The style of a period was all in where the wealth was, all right? So if the wealth was on the lace around your wrist and the rings on your finger and perhaps how much you paid for your wig, it was amazing how all this stuff would start to happen with your snuff box. Now, where your wealth is not just a screen that sits there and you spend hours and hours and hours and hours with it, but it's a little tiny screen, and you do this with the style of this period. It's going to be what? What are you going to say physically? What do you have to say about the generation?
Here to share with us his take on the artistic temperament is our own ever-temperamental Patrick Maliha.
Every artist thinks he's just one song painting a role away from fame. For some reason, artists always think they're on the way up. There's no way I could have peaked 3 years ago. I'm doing terrible right now. This can't be the best that it ever gets. I think it's because artists set up artificial goals for themselves, and as they move towards those goals, instead of driving and pushing through them and trying to achieve them, they tend to move the goalposts. Hey, when I hit this stage, I'm gonna be successful. All I gotta do is this, that, and this, and it's set. Artists make for poor business people. It's just a fact of life. If artists had a good business sense, they would all be tax accountants. We would have nobody singing or painting because somebody would say, hey, there's no money in this. Why should I try it? I'm going to be a plumber. I'm just saying that if you're an artist, please understand there's a reason why there's the Starving Artist Society. There's a reason why you see 6 starving actors in a 2-bedroom apartment. I've never seen 6 accountants get together and say, hey, once I get that Revenue Canada job, I'm on my way. For some reason, in the artist communities, making it seems to be a dirty word. Money is a filthy word. You're only allowed to get to a certain level before people start calling you a sellout. And when I say sellout, I mean somebody who has sold out every stadium, somebody who has sold out every painting. You've got to make a choice. And when you make that choice, no complaints. Until next time, I'm Patrick Maliha.
It isn't easy being green, and it's not easy being old either. But the special quality of artists seems to be that they remain so in love with their profession. In spite of aching bones, failing eyesight, or any of the other indignities of aging that afflict us all in time, they wake up every day with the desire to continue doing what it is they do.
Each day, though, I do now really appreciate each day and try to make that as full as I can.
It's probably genetic, I guess, but my doctor, who is a woman, seemed to provide the answer one time when I was leaving her office recently. She put her hand on my shoulder. She said, "Dal, don't stop blowing that horn. You may drop dead."
I think one of the things that does happen, well, it happens to me, is that that first impulse is, damn it, why couldn't I watch the step? Why didn't I see the step that I might have bumped into and half stumbled? Why can't you recognize that you just don't walk downstairs without holding onto a rail anymore? Your depth perception is not what it used to be. So you can't run up and down stairs because you know one follows the other. You have to hold on and look at that yellow line, hopefully, if that's on the step, and go slower.
The older you get, the more you live in the present.
We keep saying one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, live it to its fullest. If we allow ourselves really to do that, I think you can deal with aging in a more sensible way.
If you're given the health with which to keep going, that's what you're after. Now, you just have to look at Dal Richards. You just have to look at Leon Bibb, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
The physicality is there because your diaphragm is being used all the time as you take deep breaths to play the phrases. But also, you have to be alert, of course, to, you're reading music and you're reading sight unseen sometimes. And all of that, and the fact of, in my case, I have to put those situations together. It means that I am responsible for providing the work, getting the gig, as we say, then hiring my sidemen, as the musicians are called, and being there on time, and the way we go.
To be on stage with my son and my granddaughter, it was a dream I've had for a long, long time. All of those people who had contributed to that accomplishment for me helped fulfill a dream that will forever live in my memory and my mind. And why don't I think about those things when I stumble and get angry with myself?
In my present, in the last year, very exciting things have happened that could only have happened in Vancouver. So in a way, I can't generalize. That's the way it's happening now. On the other hand, I suppose you could get really bitter and upset that what your generation has contributed to this space is being ignored.
I get angry with myself, and then I leave the experience and I say, why are you angry? You're fortunate that you get to the place where you can get angry about it.
You know what would be wonderful? If there was a fourth generation where you worked like hell all your life, but when you got to your fourth generation, which looks as if it's 80 and over, but let's say 70 and over, you could just do art. You could just be creative. You didn't have to be, and you earned that, and now you can put in your creative time wherever you want.
One of these days, I won't be able to stand up, sing, or take one last breath. When that happens, I want to recognize that I've lived a full life, that I've met beautiful people throughout that life, that wherever it is, heaven, the universe, wherever, I don't want to be a crybaby.
Putting this show together has been a real eye-opener for me. We started out with the title, The Artist at Twilight, with the aim of exploring the reality of aging for artists and using some of the more distinguished elder performers of our city. Well, as soon as I got Joy Coghill in the studio, she set me straight. She objected mightily to her current time of life being described as twilight. One definition of twilight being the condition of decline following successes. I think she made her point very well, don't you? And so I renamed this story of our wonderful elder performers, the Honorable Elders of the Arts. I'm Pia Shandel. Thanks for being with us.